Have you forgiven TB Joshua for all that he did to you?
I had to learn to accept an apology that I'll never receive. Not for him, but for my own mental health. Because if I carried it with me, yes, at some point I was so angry saying, he changed my life's destiny. He changed the course of my life. Maybe certain things wouldn't have happened the way they did. But I had to teach myself to say, I'm going to learn to accept an apology that I may never receive for my sanity. Because if I don't forgive and let go, I'm going to give off negativity and I'm going to be a miserable person all my life. So, did I forgive him? Yes. For him, no. But for me, for myself.
How did you come out of this?
I always say to people that for me, I remember there was a year when TB Joshua was having a birthday, like in June is his birthday, right? Um, and he had invited the group Joyous Celebration to Synagogue Church of All Nations. And I remember, I mean, I'm a South African girl, and I saw Jabu Hlongwane there and the whole team, and I was a groupie. And I ran up to him and I'm like, Bab Hlongwane, how are you? And he's like, you know how to speak Zulu? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, how come? Where do you come from? I'm like, no, I'm from South Africa. He's like, why are you here? I couldn't answer him. He's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, he's like, what? Your parents don't love you. I think for the first time I had an aha moment of why am I here? Like I had that loud bulb moment. And that's when I started, like the fire within me started burning to say, I want to go back home. Now remember, when you're there, your passport is kept in the office. So you don't have access to your travel documents. So they keep your passport, you are there. So even if you have to run away, where you going to? Because you are guarded, you know? And that's when I started wanting to come back home. And lo and behold, I think a few months later, there was a trip where we were traveling to Mexico or something. I don't remember. But now, every trip that you go to, we would always fly from Nigeria, first stop South Africa, spend maybe a night or two in Temitokbe's house in Rivonia, and then connect to where we're going. And I remember we flew into South Africa. And remember now, when you're flying down, you have your passport with you. And we slept at Temitokbe's house in Rivonia. And that day, I remember there was a guy doing the garden. And while I was doing the garden, you know, when you like, it's either now or never. I just walked out. I literally just walked out of the gate. I had my passport with me and I was like, I'm out. And got a ride, managed to get a phone, and the rest was history. And I was gone.
Because your story is huge. It's very, very big. But
It
you know, the people we are dealing with, we have multitudes to convince, and we have multitudes that will fight. Even now, as we speak, we have multitudes. You know, these vagabonds, these mugus,
for
spiritual
me,
sons and daughters of
for
these
me, it's not
lectures.
For me, it's not even about convincing people. People can write whatever they want to write. Look, each for his own. People can, I always say, whatever helps you sleep well at night, good for you. But until it happens to someone close to you or you experience it, like I'm not here to convince people otherwise. I'm not here to say, please believe me, this is the truth. No, this is my truth. And if you go back and listen to me talking from 10 years ago, whenever, I've been saying the same thing. And for me, it's not even about convincing people, but it's my journey. It happened to me, but it does not define me. But it happened to me, and I'd be damned if there's another Sihle Sibisi out there who's currently going through this at the hands of a pastor, at the hands of a papa or a daddy or whoever that is. I mean, you look at, for example, with Bushiri, with all the crimes that he's committed, there are people who are still staunch believers in him. Look at Omotoso. There are still people who cry for him in court. This is when you see that this is bigger than what the eye sees. This is spiritual. This is deep. And the depth of it is so intense to a point of, I mean, why would we have to cut your pubic hairs and feed the fish? Why would you have to take your sanitary towels and feed them to a serpent? It is deep. And that is why when I said to you, leaving there, it took time for you to actually rid yourself of all those things. I remember I you do anything and everything just to cleanse yourself and rid yourself of all that bad omen and try to live. But it's hard because you become in this spiritual warfare of not knowing, and it's even hard for you to adapt back into society because you're used to this particular lifestyle, you're used to this particular lifestyle of being groomed and doing this and doing that, you know. So yeah. So for me, it's not about convincing people. It's not about, look, people can believe what they want to say, believe whatever they want to believe. For me, it happened to me. It doesn't define me. It is my truth. And I'll never stop talking about it because maybe there's somebody out there who possibly is going through it or went through it or has a family member who's currently in it. And maybe by them hearing my story might somehow ignite something within them.
You see, I followed your story. I don't know that time when you spoke about it with those other two guys that I don't want to mention their names was the first time, but I've literally gone through each and every bit and piece, of your story. I pay very close attention to detail, but the level of your consistency and your storyline, it has not changed ever since. So this is my advice to the spiritual sons. Like you have already mentioned, that it's not easy for you to believe it until it happens to someone close to you or it happens to you directly. What's your advice to spiritual sons and daughters who are still glued to spiritual fathers?
Look, for me, it's about until, like, people will say to me, did I get delivered? Did I get cleansed? And I say to them, um, guys, for me, when you say deliverance, it means something diabolical. When you say cleansed, it means something diabolical. So I'm in pursuit of finding God on my own, and I'm on pursuit of um, the fact that I'm still alive. I see traces of God. The fact that I'm still standing and I'm not lost my mind, I see traces of God. And I believe God, when He says He's the father to the fatherless, when God says, um, I am your father, He surely does not mean harm to me. And I believe in every step, in every journey that I take, day by day, He is somehow helping me in my line of journey. And who knows, I possibly had to go through that for me to be the person that I am, to be the strong woman that I am, to be this vocal person that I am. Maybe in me talking, in me sharing my journey, that's where my healing is. In me being able to stomach the insults, in me being able to stomach the trolling, that's where my journey is. Because those who troll, those who insult, those who speak nonsense, I realize that they themselves are hurt. They themselves are as confused, and they are just projecting themselves onto me. And my advice is, look, if you have nothing to say, if you don't know the truth of what somebody is saying, just take time out to keep quiet. Rather pray for them, rather do your own research on the side, rather pray for them and ask your God, because clearly, if you are bashing me, it means you are very close to Jesus. You're sitting on His right throne like this next to Him. So if you're bashing me and you are claiming to be more spiritual, pray for people like me who have been through it, not have heard it, but who have been through it and have come out alive. Some people never came out alive. If I could tell you, at SCOAN sometimes, like I said to you, if you don't see somebody, you can't ask where they are, but only to find sometimes you'd walk and you see a dead body and you can't even say anything about it. You shut your mouth. Thank God some of us came out of there alive. So to those who are still in it, I just pray and hope that one day you'll also have an awakening. God will open your eyes to it. But for as long as they're still in it, they're still gonna bash. For as long as they're still in it, they're still gonna troll. For as long as they're still into it, they're still gonna call people like me names. They're still gonna pull us down. They're still gonna have nothing good to say about us. So that's why I don't get angry at them, because I realize that they're still in it and they need to be mean to me. They need to troll me. They need to speak trash about me because they're still in it. So until they get their own awakening to it, I guess let's allow them to troll and bash me.
Have you forgiven TB Joshua for all that he did to you?
I had to learn to accept an apology that I'll never receive. Not for him, but for my own mental health. Because if I carried it with me, yes, at some point I was so angry, saying, he changed my life's destiny. He changed the course of my life. Maybe certain things wouldn't have happened the way they did. But I had to teach myself to say, I'm going to learn to accept an apology that I may never receive, for my sanity. Because if I don't forgive and let go, I'm going to give off negativity and I'm going to be a miserable person all my life. So, did I forgive him? Yes. For him, no. But for me, for myself,
Let's say, assuming that he is watching, what would you want to say to him?
I would say to him, this is a chance to say sorry to me. This is a chance for you to say sorry to all of us on the BBC documentary. This is a chance for you to actually just say, guys, I'm sorry, I possibly did not know any better. That is all. You owe us an apology. That is all I would say. And I would say to him, just stop it. Just stop it, because it might look as though your kids are making it. It might seem as though your kids are making it currently. I mean, ask yourself why he never attended his firstborn daughter's wedding, Sarah's wedding. That's because Sarah confronted him about the diabolical things he's been doing, because she's 100% aware of it. And he never went to her wedding. So I would say to him, man, you need to man up, apologize, and maybe through your apology, you will win more souls for God.
What about to Evelyn Joshua if she's watching? Do you have any message for her, or you have no anything that you would wish for her to do for the victims, for people like you who were
Well,
abused right under her nose?
Well, for me, I was disappointed when she said she doesn't know us. When she responded and said she doesn't know us, we've never been there, blah, blah, blah. And my message for her is just to say, look, as a mother, if she has a conscience, she would actually take time out to sit or speak to us, since she claims to not know us, since she claims we are lying. As a mother, I believe she would take time out to want to say, come, let me hear you out and let's forge a way forward.
Okay, from your own understanding between Ajoke and TB Joshua, you are the one who was there. Can you, confirm that Ajoke is 100% TB Joshua's biological daughter, or she's an adopted child?
Ajoke is 100% the seed of Temi Tokbe. 100%. That is why Ajoke was abused the way she was. Her only sin is that she's not born from Evelyn. That's why she was abused the way she was. Ajoke is 100% Temi Tokbe's child. And it's so painful that she is not benefiting equally like all the other children that are born of Temi Tokbe and Evelyn. Her only sin is that her mother is not Evelyn. Ajoke is 100% Temi Tokbe's child. So yes, um, I don't know. God must just intervene and do something.
Okay, I know you've said quite a lot. Maybe I'll just ask one last question. You mentioned TB Joshua not sleeping in the same room with Evelyn. So do you mean all the time TB Joshua was having a good time with his disciples, and Evelyn was just there as a show off, or as a trophy woman, to make the world believe that they are happily married and they are living a happy life?
Someone is asking, to have any pictures while I was there. Definitely, I have pictures when I was there. Anyways, um, they never slept in the same room. Temi Tokbe's room was at the 5 stories. She had the whole entire floor to herself. I think it's third floor. The whole entire floor to herself. So he would see her, how she fell pregnant. Maybe he'd visit her once or twice, whatever, but he would always be alone, because he'd always say he needs to be close to God.
Close to God when he was inviting you guys upstairs.
Yeah. So my question is, if you still don't believe us, go take time, go watch the BBC documentary and watch it to understand and to listen. Don't watch to listen and respond. Watch to listen and understand and hear what people from all over the world are saying. And what people don't know is that we were all, that's why it took about 4 to 5 years for the documentary to be concluded, because I remember when they came to interview me in South Africa, they were here for a good year, interviewing me, doing the fact finding, verifying things that I was saying, because they would verify things that I'd say, and then they'd come together and say, oh my God, what you're saying matches with this one and that one and that one. So they took time in verifying and making sure that everyone is saying the right thing. Why is it that when BBC went to SCOAN during the investigations, they got arrested? Because word came out that BBC is there. They wanted to get rid of right of reply from Toby Tokbe, and they were arrested in Lagos. These are
Were they
things.
arrested? The reporters, the ones who were doing the
The white
documentary.
reporters, the white reporters were arrested and thrown into jail, because the BBC had to actually get them out of prison, because they were like, no, they don't want, they are intruding, they don't want them at the church. So BBC tried everything in their best to give Temi Tokbe a right of reply.
And this was before he staged his death.
This is before he passed on. This is before he passed. That's why when he passed on and people were like, why are you guys talking after he passed on? I was like, "Ugh, guys, this investigations were happening 4 to 5 years before he passed on. Before he so-called passed on. That's when it happened. So with me, I'm not easily broken. I'm not even shaken. I'm not even easily moved because I always say it happened to me, but it doesn't define me at all.
Are you still in contact with some of the victims that you featured on the documentary?
Definitely, I'm still in contact with Sister Brisola. I think after the documentary, when it came out, we actually had a reunion. I'm still in contact with Sister Rachel. I mean, look at Sister Rachel now. She left the church and now she's part of the LGBTQIA plus community. All of us somehow, that church somehow messed us up somehow. I'm still in contact with Sister Jessica, who's in Botswana. I'm still in contact with Sister Denise. We're all still in contact, all of us, because now people are much older. Some are married, some are just career women, some have kids, some can't have kids. I'm still in touch with Sister Chloe. I mean, Sister Chloe's story is one sad one. Sister Chloe's brother Chris, he was one of the wise men at the church, but she managed to pull out. I mean, Sister Chloe's parents gave away all their children to Temi Tokbe and 6 children. She was the only one who pulled out and left. The other one got married, and then the other one became a wise man. So everyone has different stories to tell that are so complex and so painful, but one thing in common: our childhood, our youthhood was snatched away from us. Yes, Jessica's in Namibia. Sorry, she's in Namibia. Yes, Jessica's in Namibia. And I'm still in contact with all these people. Some still reach out. I'm in contact with most of them. We still in contact. We talk and we always laugh when people say, ha ha, you people are lying, you people are this, and we're like, whatever, guys, like really, whatever.
Please, if they are still available, if they are willing, please convince them to come and give us more information. Not like more information, to just come and retell their stories as they were told on BBC. There's so much need. My heart bleeds for followers of these people. And I don't believe your stories, were told and they should just end like that. Of course, people are still going to watch your documentary, but if they can still get to hear them over and over again, I believe faith comes by hearing and hearing. And most people are afraid to stand up and to speak out the way you are speaking out because they fear that maybe the spiritual fathers will send their spiritual attacks. But look at you glowing. Look at you
No,
looking so fresh. No
no,
sign that TB Joshua's spirit is haunting you.
can you imagine? And I think also, someone said to me, "You guys say they were investigating him for 5 years before he died, but the documentaries were in only 2 or 3 hours." I'm like, but that's how TV works. They can't show the whole 5 years. They must trim whatever they want to trim and edit whatever they edit. That is why I think most of us avail ourselves for in-depth interviews to go deep into it, because while some of the things I've told you now I don't talk about in the documentary, that is why we are speaking in depth things. Like when people want to know about it, I'm always available to share my story, to say, hey man, it happened to me, it doesn't define me, but this is what happened to me and it doesn't define me. I mean, phew, I mean, at some point, I remember you would have pictures of him in the house, you'd have stickers of him, you'd have everything that is of him. It was Jesus. I don't know how, but yeah.
Yes, my people, my sister, we thank you so much for your great story. And to those of you who are interested in learning more, I'm sure you are now on another journey of exposing fake pastors. You actually have a program on, is it DSTV?
Okay, so let me tell you. So I'm hosting two shows. One called Fake Marriages, and the other one is called Fake Pastors. So now I never auditioned for these shows, right? When I was contacted by DSTV 157 to say, hey, we've got a show called Fake Marriages, and we want a very strong woman to do the show. And we thought of you. And I thought, okay, all right. And I jumped the ship and I went and I did it. And while we were doing the shoot for Fake Marriages, they were like, hey, there's another concept here called Fake Pastors. And looking at your history, you know more about these. We want you to host the show. And I was like, okay, great. So it just landed on me. And I guess it was God's perfect time. I don't know. But yeah, it's confrontational shows, very fun. I'm really enjoying them. And at the end of the day, I always say to people, we're not against churches, we're not against pastors, we're not against the religious sector, but we're against the ills that are done to people in the name of God, in the name of churches. Because one thing we've seen, the modus operandi is um, these men of God will separate families from each other. You will join their church, they will tell you how evil your family members are. Then the next thing, they recruit you to move in and permanently stay in the church. And once you permanently stay in the church, you lose contact with your family. You're not allowed to phone them. You're not allowed to do this, do that, do that. And then families write to us to say, hey, my child joined this church and I haven't seen them in 3 years. So we basically go there to mediate, to say, but we're not against the church, but why are you coming causing division in families? This is not supposed to happen. I'll give an example. There's a church we went to last year, and they call it the secret church. Maybe it's a secret church. And when we got to this church, outside you've got all the massive cars, Maseratis, everything. It's in Mutlakeng, and all these Maseratis and stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, we're in a rich church here. But it's like you can't hear or see what's happening inside. So as soon as the camera crew went in and the lights went on, everyone in the church was pure naked. From the child to the granny to the usher to everyone is naked in their birthday suit. I was shocked. And I was like, please get dressed. I need to talk to the pastor. And I asked him, I said, why are people naked? He says, no, they believe that the Holy Spirit must enter them in their Adamic nature. And these are, I don't know, like, I think we need to go back to the old time religion, actually, because church now has turned into a business, or it's just turned so diabolical. So I'm not against the church, guys. I still go to church. The only difference is that I don't go to your churches that start at 6 in the morning and end at 9 p.m., where the whole day you are shouting fire, 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 fire. I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do the prophesy, yeah, 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 yeah. I don't do that. I just go to a church and I listen to the word and I pray and I come home, because I think for me, such churches are still trauma for me, and I just don't go there.
So with the program of fake pastors, you literally confront pastors, churches during Sunday services, and you
Yeah,
bring them.
service. During during church, when you're on stage there doing your thing, I walk in, I'm heavily guarded. I go in and I go there and I say, hi, Pastor, how are you? And I'm not there to fight with you. I have the people who are against you. I say, Pastor, I brought this family here, they've got an issue with you, and the family says the issue, and yeah, the gloves are off. Yeah.
So what kind of people do you represent? I have quite a lot of people who I would want you to take to churches
No,
who have
the people.
grievances, serious grievances.
No, like people write to the show and they investigate and we confront. I mean, the last episode we had last year was people from Zimbabwe wrote to the show. They had a grievance against Prophet Magaya. And so I didn't even know who Prophet Magaya is. So what happens is, on the day of, I never know which church I'm going to or what the storyline is, except after my makeup is done. So when my makeup is done, they give me a brief. They're like, hey, it's Zimbabweans. I'm like, Zimbabweans. It's Prophet Magaya. Who's this? Like, Prophet from Zimbabwe. Okay, what's going on? He promised people pieces of RTP houses, and he said they must all pay 1,000 US dollars. That has been happening for 7 years. People want their monies back. Okay, where's the prophet? Prophet's in Zimbabwe. Okay, so what do we do? We had to go to his offices here in Johannesburg. We went to the offices in Johannesburg. We confronted his employees. We actually called him on the line and diddle daddle, diddle daddle. Long and short, we took the employee into the police van, went to the police station, because the employee is the one that accept the money from people in South Africa. So you accepting the money, we get you arrested. Within an hour, Makaya was transferring back people's money. Yeah,
Really?
that was on season one. Yes, Prophet Makaya's one. It was um on season one.
You know, my
So
guy is a spiritual son to TB Joshua.
yes, I found out then that he was a spiritual son to TB Joshua. And then I was like, then from there, we had so many people from his church coming to the Moja Love offices with more grievances. I was like, woo. And I'm like, these pastors, stop taking people's money. Stop promising people that are not things that are not there. Stop being diabolical. Just go and preach the word and leave everything else. Because at the end of the day, they'll turn around and say Sihle is against pastors. Sihle, she's this and that and that. Forgetting that people write to the show, the investigators investigate. I just come to mediate. I just come and I just mediate. I mean, I even spoke to the prophet on the phone. I spoke to him on the phone and I'm like, we hear this and this and this is happening. And people got paid their monies. I think 6 of those women got paid their monies. And so it's big. Like there's so many complaints against so many churches where it's like, yeah, ne. So for me, that's when I see that actually traces of God lives, because thus far he has kept me, and I believe even me doing these shows is just a ministry on its own, where people's eyes are being opened to the ills of what's happening out there. And that's why when people say to me, are you not afraid for your life? I'm like, why am I afraid for my life? What wrong am I doing? People are writing to us, people are being scammed, people are being abused, and we get SAPS involved if we have to, but I'm just the mediator. For me, I think the greatest, I don't want to say regret, but the greatest, yeah, regret or the pain for me is that the whole experience stole my worship. You know, I'm a worshiper, I sing. And for me, I used to sing on stage, on TB Joshua's stage. And I used to sing with the three sisters, Anne, Anu, and Bose, and Sister Fanny, and all of them. And the whole experience just stole my worship, because I found that now, um, because what would happen is before you'd go on stage and worship, chances are you've been slept with. So you'd go on stage and you would worship, but it reached a point where you just felt, I can't do this anymore. So I'm just in a journey of saying, one day, one day, I need my worship to be restored. And I need to actually just, you know, I don't know, I need my worship to be restored, like I'm talking to you now and I'm thinking of the song that says, I'm coming back to the house of worship, and it's
Can
all
you sing
about,
it? Can you sing it? Let's see if it has been restored or it's still in the process. Where is it? Is it
oh
50%
gosh.
more than or halfway? Give us a taste of your worship.
I think it goes, I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the things I've made it. It's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. So yeah. Yeah.
Now,
You
people
know,
with very good voices sometimes just gift our sister. When you're at Dix Rhymes, someone just coughs on a mouth on a microphone. You start running to the altar, dropping seeds. Gift our sister here. She's given you an entire experience.
oh my gosh.
And she has even given you an understanding of how dangerous, the dangers that are lurking beneath the altars of these ritualists that you call spiritual fathers. All African prophets, they are more or less the same as TB Joshua. It's just that TB Joshua was the kingpin of witchcraft. But the rest that came before or after TB Joshua, they've all learned from that native doctor. And some are even doing worse than TB Joshua. I wanted to ask you something. Was TB Joshua straight, or sometimes he was bending on the boys as well? Was he only concentrating on the females?
No, not only on the females, definitely not. Not definitely not. And most of these pastors who are now big and famous,